The sky burned. Ash fell in slow spirals, tracing lazy paths through the dying light. What had once been a city was now a jagged skeleton of steel and stone. Fires clung to the husks of buildings like desperate ghosts. Amid the ruins, two figures stood motionless, one born of earth, the other shaped in the void between stars. He stared at her as if seeing a myth come to life. Dirt smeared his face. Sweat clung to his skin beneath the scorched tactical armor. His rifle dangled from one hand. Forgotten. Words failed him, caught in the hollow of his throat as he looked at the blue-skinned woman before him. Her armor gleamed like something ancient and terrible, forged not just for war, but for remembrance. Scars and glowing cracks marked the surface of the metal, each one a tale of battle. Her face, though inhuman, held an unsettling symmetry. High cheekbones, lips shaped with precision, eyes that glowed molten gold like twin suns caught in eclipse. She did not breathe heavily, though the world had just tried to tear itself apart around her. "You call me beautiful human," she said at last, her voice like broken glass smoothed by time. "But you haven't seen what I am beneath the—" He flinched as a far-off building gave way and collapsed with a thunderous roar. Debris spiraled skyward before raining down in silence. She didn't move. He found his voice. "You saved me. You were in my path. I was about to die. That doesn't make us friends." She turned from him, her armor hissing faintly as it adjusted with each movement. Her long, braided hair shimmered with flecks of dust and what might have been blood. He hesitated before following. "What are you?" he asked, no longer in awe but in genuine confusion. "You're not like the others. The others are rotty. They don't spare people." Her jaw tightened. "I am not like the others," she said simply. They walked through the rubble, her boots crushing what remained of civilization with indifferent grace. The man's name was Micah, though she hadn't asked. His squad was gone, vaporized in a blast that hadn't touched her. He didn't know why he was still alive. That question clung to his mind like the stench of the dead. She was known only by her designation, something coded and cold, but she had whispered a name once when she believed no one was listening. Leary. Micah watched her, trying to see past the armor, the precision-engineered beauty. But there was nothing to betray motive, no twitch of muscle or flash of emotion. She moved like a memory, fluid, lethal, already gone. "Why fight at all if you're not with them?" he asked. She paused mid-step, the glow in her chest plate pulsing. "I don't fight for them," she said. "I never did." "Then why?" "Because I was made to. Because there is no escape once you've been named a weapon." Micah didn't know how to respond. He'd fought for survival, for family, for Earth. But her? She fought because someone had carved war into her bones. The silence stretched until it was thick enough to drown in. They found shelter in a broken parking structure, half collapsed but stable enough. Leary stood at the entrance like a sentinel, her gaze scanning the dark horizon. Micah knelt, drawing shallow breaths, trying to ignore the tremble in his fingers. The adrenaline had worn off, and what was left was a taste of fear and questions. "I looked at you," he said quietly, "and I saw something beautiful. But now—" She turned her head, just slightly. "Now you see something dangerous," she finished for him. "No, I see someone haunted." That earned a glance. Brief, curious, almost vulnerable. "No one says things like that to me," she said. "Maybe they should." Leary didn't smile. She didn't cry either. She simply turned back toward the horizon, the twin lights of her eyes dimming, as if withdrawing from the conversation. He leaned back against the concrete and studied the cracked ceiling. "I used to be a mechanic," he said. "Before all this, before the invasion. I don't care. I know. Doesn't mean I'll stop talking. Silence. I fixed engines. Watched things come apart, so I could put them back together better than before." She didn't interrupt. "I don't know how to fix this," he said after a while. "Any of it. You, me, the war." Her voice came softer this time. "You think I'm broken? I think we all are." Outside, the wind picked up, carrying ash like snowflakes. Somewhere in the distance, artillery thudded like a distant heartbeat, relentless, grim, inevitable. Micah rested his head against the wall, eyes half closed. Why did you hesitate back there? When you saw me, I saw a man with no weapon, no chance. And for a moment, she exhaled. I didn't want to kill. That moment saved me. She didn't respond. He studied her profile in the flickering light. She looked like something built to inspire awe and terror in equal measure. The curve of her cheekbone, the faint shimmer of metallic strands in her braid. A beauty born from engineering, not nature, designed to confuse, seduce, distract. The perfect predator in an elegant skin. But beneath it, he could see the flickers of exhaustion, of sorrow. Something far more dangerous than anger. I don't think your creators understood what they made, he said. They knew exactly what they made. Then they were blind. She finally looked at him, really looked. You see past it, don't you? The armor, the design. I see you, Leary. The name lingered between them like a fragile truce. I don't want your sympathy, human. Good, he said, because it's not sympathy. It's something else. She tilted her head. Curiosity, hope. That silenced her. The night crept in, smothering what was left of firelight. Micah wrapped his coat tighter around himself. Leary remained standing, unmoved, a living monument to everything lost and everything left to lose. Before he drifted to sleep, he murmured, "If you're trying to hide what you are, you're doing a bad job." She didn't respond for a long time. Then, just as the wind howled again through the bones of the broken world, she said, "I am not hiding. I am choosing what parts remain." The line carved itself into darkness, and though Micah could no longer see her face, he could feel her watching. As the ruins slept and the fires died, the line between monster and miracle blurred further, and tomorrow waited like a breath yet held. The silence between them had changed. Micah felt it like a hum beneath his skin, the way air shifted before a storm. Leary no longer watched him with the distant indifference of a predator. Something else had taken root. Not trust, not yet, but perhaps the seed of recognition. The kind that passes between survivors when they realize the fight is not just against the world, but within themselves. Dawn broke like a wound in the sky, blood-orange light seeping through shattered towers. Micah stirred under his makeshift blanket, every muscle stiff, nerves frayed by dreams of falling debris and faces he could no longer save. When he opened his eyes, Leary was already gone. He found her outside, standing on the edge of a crumbling overpass. The wind tugged at her braid. Her armor caught the light, refracting it like a prism over the scars etched into its plating. She didn't turn as he approached. "How long have you been standing there?" he asked. "Long enough. To think. To remember." Micah stepped beside her and looked down at what used to be a river, now just a dark trench choked with ash and wreckage. The air still carried the sharp tang of scorched ozone, and in the distance, the faint tremor of war rumbled like a tired god unwilling to sleep. "You said you were made for war," he said, "but that's not the same as choosing it." Leary didn't respond. Instead, she reached up to the clasp at her throat and twisted it. Her chest plate hissed, unlocking with a series of sharp clicks. Slowly, deliberately, she removed a piece of her armor, revealing the skin beneath. Micah stared. Where flesh should have been, there were interlocking plates of synthetic muscle and glowing filaments. Her skin, if it could be called that, was semi-translucent in places, webbed with circuitry and veins pulsing a soft blue. Along her collarbone, scars crisscrossed like a forgotten map, some surgical, others jagged and cruel. She had been modified, not just built, altered over and over, like a machine being rewritten mid-function. "This is what lies beneath," she said, voice flat but brittle around the edges. "You looked at me and saw something beautiful. Now look again." "I am," Micah said quietly. Leary replaced the armor with a smooth motion, but not before he noticed a small emblem etched into metal of her shoulder. Zerati glyphs wrapped in a red slash. A brand, a rejection. "What does that symbol mean?" he asked. "It means I disobeyed." "Your people did this to you?" "They stopped being my people a long time ago." He waited for more, but it didn't come. Leary walked ahead, and he followed, the wind thick with questions. They moved in silence. threading through hollow streets and over bridges that groaned with every step. Occasionally, they passed ruins marked with the fading white streaks of human resistance symbols, remnants of those who had tried and failed to stand their ground. Micah didn't know what compelled him to keep talking. Maybe it was a fear that if he let silence grow too long, she would disappear again into that unreachable place inside her. "I don't think you're a weapon," he said as they moved. "Not anymore." She glanced at him. "You're wrong." "No, I think you're what happens when a weapon starts asking questions." That made her pause. Her eyes, gold and flickering with inner light, narrowed. "What are you trying to do, Micah?" "Understand. Understanding doesn't change what I've done." "No, but it might change what you do next." They stopped near the entrance to an old metro tunnel, half swallowed by debris. The darkness inside pulsed with the echoes of things long buried. Leary looked into the black void, then down at her hands. "I was grown in a synthesis chamber," she said. "Not born. Every strand of my DNA engineered. Every nerve calibrated to pain tolerance thresholds that would kill a human. I was shaped to look like this. Not for my sake, but to unsettle yours. Beauty as a weapon, a facade, tactical allure." Micah swallowed hard. "They built you to manipulate us. They built me to destroy you. But you didn't. No, not you." Her voice dropped. "But many others." The confession hung there like a blade between them. Micah didn't move. "I've done things," she continued, her gaze distant. "Things no memory suppressant could bury. Children screaming. Cities burning. I was efficient, lethal, celebrated. And then one day, it stopped feeling like duty. What changed? I began to dream." Micah blinked. "You dream?" "Not in the human sense. But fragments started slipping through. Images. Emotions I wasn't programmed to feel. I began to see their faces. The ones I'd erased. And then I saw mine." He wanted to reach out, but knew better. She was standing on the edge of something fragile, and the wrong touch could shatter it. "That's why you disobeyed," he said. She nodded once. "They tried to wipe me clean. Start over. But the code had already unraveled. I wasn't who they wanted anymore. So they hunted you. And I hunted back." The wind howled down the tunnel, a low, guttural warning. Micah took a breath. "Why did you save me, Leary?" "Really?" She didn't answer immediately. Then, in a voice barely audible, "Because you looked at me and didn't flinch." "That's not a reason." "It is to someone like me." Micah felt something shift, like two tectonic plates brushing edges deep beneath the surface. A tension neither of them fully understood. Before he could speak again, Leary stiffened. Her eyes flashed brighter. "What is it?" She held up a hand. "We're not alone." A second later, the first shot rang out. Micah dove for cover behind a rusted vehicle as plasma rounds scorched the air. Leary was already moving, a blur of steel and instinct. She sprinted into the open, drawing fire with calculated recklessness, deflecting shots with her armored forearms. From the shadows emerged two Zerati enforcers, their armor sleeker, darker, almost ceremonial. They moved like shadows, but Leary moved like memory. One leapt forward, twin blades drawn, aiming for her throat. She caught the first strike mid-swing, twisting the weapon from her attacker and driving it into his chest in a single, brutal motion. The second came at her with a blast weapon, but she was faster, dodging, weaving, cutting him down in a whirlwind of fury. When it was over, she stood alone, breathing hard, blood and oil dripping from her armor. The two bodies lay twisted on the ground. Micah emerged, wide-eyed. "They were after you." "They were a message," she said, wiping her blade on the grass. "They know I'm alive, and they know I'm not alone anymore." He didn't know what scared him more, her enemies or the way she dispatched them without hesitation. Still, she didn't look triumphant. She looked tired. "Hollow, I won't go with you if this becomes a suicide run," he said. "Then turn back." "I'm not going to do that either." For a long time, she just looked at him, and then softly she said, "Then you're a fool. I've been called worse." Night returned with an urgency, the kind that presses in like a warning. They built a fire in silence, shielding it beneath a collapsed pillar. As flames danced across her armor, Leary looked less like a soldier and more like a question waiting to be answered. "Micah," she said. "Yeah. If I lose control, if they find a way to take me back." "They won't. If they do, you'll need to end it." He met her eyes, unflinching. "You'll have to do better than that if you want to scare me." The fire cracked. Her expression softened minutely, but it was... The dawn came slower this time, thick with a haze that muted the ruins into a graveyard of shadow and ash. The world seemed to hold its breath, as if it, too, understood the weight of what was coming. Micah stood at the edge of a broken plaza, watching the sun struggle to pierce through the smoke-laced sky. Behind him, Leary emerged from the darkness, her armor scorched from the previous night's encounter, eyes sharper, harder. They hadn't spoken since the fight. Some things couldn't be softened with words. Some truths were meant to sit between people like knives, acknowledged, not ignored. He turned when he heard her approach. "You were right," she said. Micah raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "They sent hunters, not scouts, which means they're close, which means this is no longer about me running. It's about them finishing what they started." Micah nodded slowly, already expecting it. "So what's your plan?" "I won't keep running," she said. "Not anymore. If I flee, they'll follow. If I fight, maybe, I can make them bleed enough to think twice. And me? You still have a choice. I made mine the moment I followed you into that tunnel." Leary looked at him then, really looked, as if trying to memorize the lines of his face, or perhaps convince herself that someone could choose to stand beside something like her, a thing built for war, a being sculpted from blood and precision. They moved swiftly that morning, across fractured terrain and scorched steel, heading toward the last known relay tower. If they could reach it, they could intercept Zerati communications, maybe even disrupt their link to the fleet above. It was a desperate plan, built on scraps and hope, but it was all they had. As they approached the tower skeleton, half collapsed, laced with twisted rebar and shattered glass, Micah felt the pull of memory tighten in his chest. He'd fought here once, lost people here. The ghost knew his name. Inside, silence. The building's interior was hollow, a ribcage of dead machinery and scorched panels. Leary moved ahead, scanning with a small device drawn from her hip. It pulsed red. "They've encrypted the relay," she muttered. "But not completely. Someone's been here." "You think it's a trap?" "No, I think it's bait." Micah crouched by a broken console, brushing off the dust. "I can try to reboot the interface. See if there's anything salvageable." "Do it fast," she said. "If they're watching this place, they won't stay patient for long." He worked quickly, hands trembling slightly as the console sparked to life. Screens flickering, coughing out fragments of code. Beside him, Leary paced like a tethered wolf, every motion wound tight with unspent violence. Then the air shifted. Micah froze. "Did you hear that?" Leary was already moving, drawing her blade. From afar in the hall, a figure emerged, taller than the others, wrapped in obsidian armor laced with crimson veins. The faceplate was blank, featureless, but Micah felt the hatred radiating from it like heat. Leary's entire body locked into place. "Vorin," she said. The name struck the air like thunder. Micah rose, his mouth dry. "Who is he?" "Commander of the Black Spire. The one who made me what I am." The figure stopped 10 feet away, the silence between them heavy as a sentence already passed. "You still wear their skin," the commander said, his voice modulated and cruel, "even after all this time." "It's mine now," Leary replied, stepping forward. "You were mine. You were perfection. And then you chose to bleed." She didn't respond. She didn't have to. The rage in her eyes burned like a rising star. Micah edged closer. "Is he alone?" Leary shook her head once. "Never." From the shadows, more figures appeared, silent, armored, merciless. 5 in total, forming a loose circle. Trained, coordinated. This wasn't a skirmish. It was an execution. Micah whispered, "We can't fight them all." "We don't need to," Leary said. "Just one." She charged before he could stop her, a blur of fury and light. Vorin met her halfway, their blades clashing in a symphony of violence. Sparks danced, steel shrieked, and the others moved to intercept. Micah ducked behind the console, grabbing the makeshift plasma cutter from his pack. His job wasn't to win. It was to disrupt, to distract, to buy her time. The relay pulsed again, a surge of interference. He jammed the cutter into the console circuit board, redirecting power, overloading the core. The tower groaned, lights flaring. Leary fought like a storm unchained, her movements brutal and graceful. Vorin was stronger, his strike precise, relentless. But she was faster, smarter. Her blade found cracks as defense, and for a moment the upper hand shifted. But then a blow caught her side, denting her armor. She stumbled. Vorin advanced, blade raised a killing strike. "Leary!" Micah shouted. She turned just as a blast went off. Micah's overload ruptured the console, sending out a shockwave of electricity and flame. It knocked the lesser soldiers backward, stunning them. Vorin staggered, but did not fall. Leary surged up, catching his wrist mid-swing and twisting hard. There was a sickening crack as his armor fractured, her blade finding the joint beneath. He screamed, a sound not entirely mechanical, and she drove her weapon home, piercing through plating, circuitry, and whatever passed for a heart inside him. The room went still. The other soldiers froze, confused, uncoordinated without their commander. Leary didn't wait. She attacked with lethal precision, cutting down the first, then the second. Micah fired the cutter like a weapon, blinding another long enough for her to finish the job. When the last body fell, the only sound was their breathing, ragged, heavy, human. Leary dropped to one knee, blood seeping from the crack in her side. Micah rushed to her, catching her before she collapsed. "Don't you dare die on me now," he said. "I don't plan to," she muttered, voice weak but alive. "You killed him." "Not just him," she whispered, "the part of me that still obeyed." He held her there, amid the wreckage and static, unsure what came next but certain that it had changed. The relay was destroyed, but so was the enemy's command. A blow had been struck, not just in battle, but in defiance. Outside, the sky began to clear. Later, as they moved from the tower and into the shifting light of the wasteland, Micah glanced at her. "You said once I hadn't seen what you were beneath," he said, "but I think I have now." She didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, "And do you still think I'm beautiful human?" He looked at her, the scars, the steel, the blood, and the soul she'd fought to reclaim. More than ever. She turned her gaze forward, and for the first time, she smiled. Not a weapon's smirk, not a phantom's mask, but something real. And in that smile, there was a promise, not just of survival, but of something worth living for.